The fact that Kamala Harris is going home tonight, I think, is amateur hour.
So she did worse among women than Joe Biden? Democrats thought they had more enthusiasm than Donald Trump. They were proven to be wrong. Donald Trump won, and won decisively. He comes back to the White House, rising like a phoenix from the ashes.
And it turns out that the country did want to turn the page. They just wanted to turn the page on Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's administration.
So, to continue down our series of reacting to mainstream media election night results, we're going to be checking out ABC to see the type of propaganda and BS takes that they had before they inevitably found out the truth. If you haven't seen the MSNBC video, I'll link it down below, and it's right on my channel. You can check it out anytime. That was hilarious. Now let's see if ABC can compare at any cost. Subscribe if you're new. Let's get to the video.
Be a razor-thin election, but I do believe that the Democrats have put all of the ingredients, and what we're looking for now is a delicious bowl of gumbo.
Reince Priebus, I think you predicted 300-plus electoral votes for Donald Trump on Sunday, standing by that?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I look at two things.
No,
George,
in fact, I spoke to a person in the Trump campaign last night who said that their words exactly, we wanted to vomit the last 9 days because he completely got off message, and they're afraid he may have lost it in the last 9 days.
Okay, well, whoever that person is, get him out of there. Since when does somebody in the Trump administration get to be allowed to talk to Chris fucking Christie, the good boy Republican, where he gets a tap on the stomach, a rub on the belly and shit?
We're so glad you're with us here on ABC News. You're looking live at the tracker of the battleground states tonight. As you can see, the key state of Georgia won by President Biden 4 years ago by just about 11,000 votes. Donald Trump leading Kamala Harris by about 10 points there.
Wow, I had no clue she was actually up in Pennsylvania with only 7%. You want to talk about a comeback of epic proportions?
It is Donald Trump's language that is turning them off. And Kamala Harris is taking full advantage of that. She's reminding voters the kinds of things Donald Trump has said. I want to protect women whether they like it or not.
Whether the women like it or not.
He calls her retarded.
Apparently she got blasted for saying that shit on TV. I don't think you can say retarded on TV. Did he even call her retarded? Because, I mean, is he wrong?
And when you look at those long lines that we've been talking about tonight, and the Trump campaign and the Harris campaign trying to get those people to stay in line, women are very, very motivated and very angry. They may stay in those lines, those low propensity male voters that Donald Trump has gone after, those younger voters who don't usually vote. Will they stay in those lines? I think back to an event in Bucks County just a couple weeks ago where Harris was standing there on stage with over 100 Republican officials and aides to former Republican presidents, echoing the argument that Liz Cheney has made to Republican women that you can come out, put country above party, and you don't have to tell anyone.
If you look at Osceola County in Florida, Donald Trump right now is winning that county. That is a very heavy Puerto Rican county. And if you go look at 2020, he lost that county by, 12, 13 points. So far tonight, it's about 95% of the vote in. Harris is looking more like Hillary Clinton in Virginia.
Hot sauce.
She won the state as well, but that's not the kind of trend line you'd want. What are we seeing as far as Latino voters, Lindsey, in Florida?
When you take a look at the Hispanic and Latino vote in Florida, 24%, they account for the electorate. Donald Trump leading by 16 points over Kamala Harris.
Mexican culture still prides having a strong man at the head of the household, even in the circumstance that they come over here. No, they're not going to go for the party that doesn't share the same principles that they have. They're about actual, like, working hard, keeping the money that they earn. Hispanics, or Latinx. Another big thing about Hispanics, they hate illegal immigrants, especially if they're legal ones. So when the legal immigrants come over and they take years and money and all this other resources to come over here legally, they hate when the criminals and the bad people from their home country come over here in the snap of a finger and not have to wait and skip the line when they had to do shit the right way. They absolutely despise it, so they swung for Trump because the Hispanics want to get the fucking illegals out of here too.
And Republicans actually haven't won the Latino vote since 2004. She's also underperforming with the Latino vote when it comes to battleground states of Georgia and also Pennsylvania.
There is anecdotal indications and some polling on Spanish language media that shows that the so-called joke at Madison Square Garden, calling Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage, has moved some Puerto Rican voters her way in Pennsylvania, home to over 400,000 Puerto Rican voters.
Donald Trump hitting his numbers just about everywhere. I haven't found many places yet where he isn't hitting where he wants to be.
Right, when we look at some of this preliminary exit poll data, what we see is that the state of democracy has actually edged out the economy as the number one issue that voters care about as they consider who to vote for.
Worthless poll is hilarious. It's the economy, stupid. Crack of shit. People care about the economy and what the amount of money that they have and how far their dollar can go. They tell the viewer what they should be worrying about when the viewer's just like, dude, the fuck are we talking about? I'm free. I still drive my car. I put gas in it. But I'm poor and I'm broke.
You ain't got the answers.
210,000 Trump seems to be in a pretty good position right now.
They're still very excited about what they're seeing. They're cautiously optimistic about North Carolina. They're nervous about Pennsylvania. There's a lot of vote that's out there. They know that there is a ton of early vote that hasn't even been touched.
With a lead early in the night in all three of those states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin.
Brother, this keeps getting sweeter and sweeter. A decent amount of the votes are in. I'm sure the viewers are sitting there licking their chops like, oh, she's looking pretty good. It's hilarious because, you know, you find out later on that none of this shit matters. It was so early.
I think they're encouraged and buoyed by what they are seeing in Pennsylvania. When it comes to Georgia, I'm hearing that they are pointing particularly to the suburban support that they're getting there. They say they are tracking slightly above expectations. They say they're not seeing signs of some surging rural turnout. They, of course, are waiting for results from those larger rural counties. They have said all along their most straightforward path is to win the blue wall states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. They've put a lot of energy and effort into those three states. But again, they always said this was going to be a tight race that was going to be won in the margin.
Georgia and North Carolina, look, anybody can still win there, but you don't see any sign that Kamala Harris is running away with anything. But I just heard from a top Democrat who was following this as close as anybody, it was always going to come down to the blue wall.
As you look at the map coming together, a very competitive race, and it would look like, Rick, if the Harris campaign has a path to 270, it's looking more and more like it's got to be through that blue wall.
The math doesn't work for either candidate unless they win Pennsylvania. Kamala Harris jumped out to a very big and early lead. That has dwindled to what we are seeing right now.
In Pennsylvania at this hour, Kamala Harris holding on to a very slim lead.
They had us in the first half. She had like what, a 72 to 20%, a 72 to 20, it was like 70-30. She was shitting on them.
And even those Democrats who were out canvassing for Kamala Harris, how do you explain to people the economy that people trust Donald Trump more on that? And they said, well, we tell them it just takes time. So that message was not really resonating. Nevada has the highest unemployment rate of any state in the country. They were devastated. And that is the issue. You know, you can talk about exaggeration. You can talk about them calling Puerto Rican garbage, but it came back to the economy.
She still is leading among Latino voters, but not by the margin that President Biden did 4 years ago. And that's going to be very concerning for the Democrats.
First of all, I've taken my meditation early because, once again, Democrats are going to come in late. They're going to come in late in Pennsylvania. And clearly in Georgia, what's happening is that Democrats are not overperforming. Donald Trump is doing 4 points better in some of the rural areas. I have, good information that Philadelphia is going to come in much stronger than in 2020. I'm also looking in some of these suburbs, if the issue of abortion, the threat of democracy, if it worked in those areas in terms of pulling out the vote.
Why'd she say it like that? If these specific issues, abortion and threat to democracy, if that worked, then we should be seeing people who care about those issues come out heavily to vote in support of those. What do you mean if that worked? If what worked? If pushing that propaganda and fear-mongering the people worked?
Mary Bruce, you've been in contact with your sources at the campaign. What are they saying about the night? I gather they'll say this is the path that we knew we were working towards, and that means it's a late night.
If I was on a team and that team would just so happen to be down 110 points, I don't care if you're gunning for the swing states to come into that burning building because they hear the babies, my baby, and the baby's crying and shit, and the swing state puts on a hat and says, you forgot one, fireman, and the swing state run into the building and shit to say to babies, the swing state's gonna die there because it's not looking for good. A nuclear bomb just got dropped on the house. You're down 110. It's not even on fire. There's a nuclear bomb about to set off in that fucking house. Shut the fuck. Y'all are down 110 points. Well, we knew what it was going to be. It was going to be a close call.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
They're not prepared to say at this point that it's, blue wall or bust. They still feel that they, have a chance in North Carolina and Georgia, that some of those places that are left. But look, they always knew that this was going to be a very close race and was going to take a lot of time.
But just look at this. This is a 1,000-vote race in Wisconsin. Wisconsin, you do this to us every time.
Oh, brother. Harris isn't even close to where she was last time in Green Bay. A bunch of places where you're just not seeing the Harris numbers and you are seeing the Trump numbers. That is the only path she has left if North Carolina and Georgia don't vote away. Yeah, Pennsylvania right now is still a problem for Kamala Harris, an advantage Donald Trump, 100,000 vote margin, a lot left.
I want to get right to Mary Bruce, covering the vice president, covering the Harris campaign. And basically, you got your hands on a memo that went out to internal staff saying this is going to buckle up. This is going to be a long election.
This email reads like a reality check from the Harris.
Just end the misery. Go to sleep. Go to sleep, guys. Nothing to see here. Nothing ever happened. Trump's our president. Forget it.
And she says what we have all been talking about, that they knew this race was going to be razor thin. She says this is exactly what they prepared for, and that their clearest path to 270 remains to be through the blue wall that we've been talking about all night. She said, we feel good about what we are seeing. That said, she is cautioning that this is going to take some time. She runs through those blue wall states, saying in Pennsylvania, they overperformed turnout expectations in Philadelphia. She says they're seeing especially high turnout with large non-white and student populations. And then in Michigan and Wisconsin, she notes, they are still awaiting a significant amount of the vote to come in Michigan, pointing to Detroit, also saying other results in Michigan are harder to parse. In Wisconsin, she points to remaining vote in Dane and Milwaukee counties. And then what she says, David, is what we do know is this race is not going to come into focus until the early morning hours. David, she urges their team to, quote, get some sleep and get ready to close out strong.
But I am also talking to Democrats, not precisely on the Kamala Harris campaign, but with very much a vested interest in what's happening here, who are feeling that this is looking very bad for her.
Give us the truth, baby.
Very concerned about the trends they're seeing, both in those Sun Belt states, concerns about what they're seeing in Wisconsin and seeing a
lot more
sure, this is not over. It's certainly not over. But seeing it as a lot of deep concerns among Democrats, very vested in this campaign, although the campaign, the Harris campaign, still very much sees a path and says this is going to be long and we need to be patient. And I think when they say long, they don't mean a long night, they mean a long week.
Look, I've worked on too many Democratic campaigns to throw in the towel. This is when it gets really good. If you're a good Democrat, you know you got to stay up past midnight to find some joy.
So that we could pull our little
some outstanding ballots
and get over our little shenanigans.
We're not going to win all 7 battleground states. The blue wall is clearly more important than ever. I don't want to feel like 2016. By 11:20 at night, we were calling into Milwaukee to say, there's nothing left. Well, if you call into Milwaukee now, there's still a lot of votes left.
Here at ABC News has not projected Georgia, but we can report that Georgia's Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger has now said at a press conference moments ago that Donald Trump has a, quote, insurmountable lead with the number of votes outstanding in the state of Georgia. You all at home remember our reporting on Raffensperger, the Republican who famously stood firm during that key phone call when Donald Trump asked, just find me the 11,000 votes. So this is not someone who's necessarily obviously very friendly with Donald Trump. He stands by the process. He stands by the hard work in that state to make sure that this election was safe.
Trump's got a 41,000 vote lead right now. A long way to go, but rather be Donald Trump here than Kamala Harris.
In Wisconsin.
I would rather be Kamala Harris. Look, but I also know how difficult it is to get all of the votes counted in Milwaukee.
Tell you what, this network is a lot more stoic. Less personal attacks, less ad hominems. They're just saying, hey guys, let's just take a chill pill and just hope that Trump doesn't secure this one. MSNBC, Trump's a bigoted Hitlerian monster.
Oh man. Oh God. Oh man.
The verdict is still out. We may not know Milwaukee, the final verdict, until sometime tomorrow morning.
Dane County, they've already counted 94% of the vote, and she seems to have fallen short.
John, these are razor-thin margin.
Yeah,
I mean, come on, let's not try to win by a blowout. I mean, she's getting it.
As of now, he's winning the popular vote by 5,600,000 votes. That will change with California. There's a
It did change with California. He only ended up winning it with 3 million votes. So.
But that's not a result that a lot of people saw coming, that it would even be close on the popular vote side.
Well, Kira, I can tell you there has been a real vibe shift here in the last 30 minutes to 45 minutes or so. We were actually starting to see some people that are leaving. There's a real concern that's starting to build as they look at the margins in these blue wall states, in Pennsylvania, in Wisconsin, in Michigan. There's nerves.
No.
One of the things the Harris campaign keeps sending us is information about the long lines at college campuses. And one source said to me, we can't count on those votes for Harris.
It's North Carolina, 16 electoral votes go to former President Donald Trump. He has won the state of North Carolina.
Vanishingly small map. The biggest opportunity still Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan. It doesn't matter that she's lost North Carolina or even that she loses these others. The other possibility that could be intriguing, given what we're seeing out west, is that she pieces something else together. Pennsylvania is an absolute must-win at this point.
So let's drill down on Pennsylvania at this hour. The Donald Trump lead has grown. Is this a surmountable lead for the Harris campaign?
There's definitely still votes on the table where it can be made up, but it gets harder as the night goes on, as more vote comes in.
Bro, that nigga face kills me. He was doing that on the debate stage too. He was like, Fat Jet Trey would just be like, but there's no way I can get it wrong because look how serious I am.
Those 900,000 votes in the collar counties and Philly are a big deal. It just keeps getting tougher and tougher there. You know, you got over a 200,000 vote lead now. So I look at Michigan and still see Harris in a pretty good position in Michigan. Look, you have to say at this point, you'd rather be Trump.
Potentially a big night for Donald Trump and all of the Republican Senate candidates who were looking either to fill an open seat or to replace a Democratic incumbent.
It's not over. A lot of votes still to count, but the trend lines are clear. Potentially, Donald Trump on the precipice of the greatest comeback in American political history.
These guys are starting to call out and see it. They must be trembling over that Trump lawsuit that he just issued out because of how they had tried to hide Kamala during that interview. I'm telling you, they're coming off way more stoic and sort of, definitely not down the middle, but they don't despise him or loathe him the way that the other networks did, or at least MSNBC did. I still have to check out CNN and all that other crap.
A president who left the White House the way he left, impeached for the second time,
shitting on her.
7 members of his own party voting to convict him in the Senate, facing multiple criminal trials, indictments in 4 separate cases, convictions in the case in New York, and to face all of that, come back, recapture the Republican nomination, and be on the precipice of potentially getting back into the White House.
A 69.7 out of 100 chances of winning the simulations that our team is doing. 30% chance of winning for Kamala Harris.
Well, Pennsylvania puts Trump over the top at this point. I mean, there's no way anymore to see how this doesn't devastate her chances.
270. But I want Kamala Harris with 194 electoral votes. Donald Trump with 230 electoral votes. Everyone now waiting to see how the blue wall will go, actually, which way the wave hits when it hits shore, I guess, because it's very close. Kamala Harris's campaign believes it still has a pathway through those 3 states of Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. I would gather the Trump campaign is very happy with what they're seeing, and we heard from Ryan Sear a short time ago that Donald Trump himself extraordinarily pleased with how the night's gone.
The party is really energized here tonight. A lot of confidence in the room, and a Trump campaign spokesperson tells us that the former president is actually on his way right now to the convention center.
Let's go over to Eva Pilgrim. She's in Washington, D.C., Howard University. Eva, I gather the temperature of the evening has shifted there.
Quite remarkably, very different than what Witt is seeing there at the Trump campaign. This was a very crowded area just a short time ago, when we last came to you. The crowd is leaving. They have been leaving for some time now. The campaign is telling us that they still think that there is a chance that they can hold that blue wall. At last check just a moment ago, the vice president is still at the Naval Conservatory, which is the vice president's residence here in D.C. We've heard repeatedly from the campaign to tell staffers to go home.
Why are they kicking these niggas out? Y'all not even letting the people decide whether or not they want to stay or not. They're just like, man, go home, man. Damn, leave, man. Shit, y'all still here? Y'all ain't see the numbers. We was down 100. Go, man. Come on. We wanted to see the win, man.
Virtually every possible metric, David, Trump is outperforming himself from 2020. When you talk about women, when you talk about Latinos, those without a college degree.
We have another state to call, and this is a big one, Georgia. And as we heard from the Secretary of State earlier, forecast at this moment, 16 electoral votes going to former President Donald Trump. He wins the key state of Georgia. He lost it to President Biden 4 years ago by about 11,000 votes. He was determined to win that state back. He has done exactly that.
I feel he's going to have to overperform, but there are red places that are still coming in Pennsylvania. Milwaukee will have to overperform. So, yeah, there may be a narrow path, but I don't know if I have my rosary beads on me.
Up to be a really big night, obviously, for Donald Trump.
I do have one update. We had expected to hear from Kamala Harris tonight. We now know.
We still have states that have not been called yet. We will continue overnight to fight to make sure that every vote is counted. So you won't hear from the vice president tonight, but you will hear from her tomorrow. She will be back here tomorrow to address not only the HU family, not only to address her supporters, but to address the nation. We believe in you. May God bless you. May God keep you. And go HU and go Harris. Thank you all.
Never an easy moment. I know they thought this was going to be very close and still a challenge. Kamala Harris herself said repeatedly, we are the underdog here. But they did sense there was some wind, some momentum in these final days, did they not?
Kamala Harris herself said that the momentum was with her. And I think in part that was because of the huge crowds she was getting. I mean, I've been at almost all of these rallies. They felt that they were reaching all of those key demographics, that big, broad coalition that her campaign talked about so often, that they felt was going to really propel them across the finish line. We are not seeing that broad coalition at all showing up here tonight.
The fact that Kamala Harris is going home tonight, I think, is amateur hour. She should say something to the people that adopted her as their nominee, and she's leaving the country hanging now all night.
Is even possible, or how narrow the path is for Kamala Harris? Does it exist still?
Oh, look, anything's possible. It's just really hard to see how. You have to squint to see the path at this point, I think.
From Mark Cuban, who, of course, was a very prominent surrogate and supporter of Kamala Harris, saying, congrats, Donald Trump, you won fair and square.
But their campaign is still insisting they have a slim path here.
But even they recognize that in kind of going dark tonight or going quiet, that they're opening up all of this sort of airtime and conversation to the real possibility that Donald Trump is going to return as president. There's no way around it. He's had a very impressive night.
They made a choice. Kamala Harris not coming out tonight to speak, likely because she didn't really know what to say. But they are seeing exactly what we are seeing. This is certainly not the night they wanted and had hoped to have. Are they ready to come out and say that definitively? No.
Waiting on him to come out to deliver what will be a victory speech.
So obviously we just have to make it clear that we haven't called it yet. We will definitely
it,
listen in, and that is the direction that this race is absolutely taking. And no matter how you look at this is a major night for Donald Trump across the map.
Yeah, David, the crowd is cheering very loudly. That's because some other networks have projected the race for Donald Trump. Of course, we are still waiting on a few states to come through.
His number among women was a few points, 3 or so points, off of Joe Biden.
So she did worse among women than Joe Biden?
Yeah.
I mean, that's an astounding.
Those are the final exit poll numbers, or are we going to have final morning?
She did 2 points worse than Joe Biden did in 2020 with the female voters.
Here's the call of the night. We can project now that Pennsylvania, the biggest battleground prize of the night, will go to former President Donald Trump. ABC News can now project that Donald Trump has won the 19 electoral votes in the state of Pennsylvania. We had said for many weeks leading up to this election that this was a must-win state for both Kamala Harris and for Donald Trump. ABC News now projecting Donald Trump.
Strong likelihood that he will win not only the Electoral College, but also the popular vote.
And that's really going to matter, John.
I can't really fathom a situation where all of those things would fall into place for Vice President Harris.
And there you have it. Kamala Harris, 218, Donald Trump, 266, though, as Rick Klein mentions, we see where the math will come from that will put him over 270. We're just waiting for the official projection.
And then to win the popular vote, to win decisively in the Electoral College, to have what appears to be lining up to be a clean sweep of the battleground states. Democrats spent more money than Donald Trump on this race. Democrats thought they had more enthusiasm than Donald Trump. They were proven to be wrong. Donald Trump won and won decisively. We're waiting for our final call.
They are notably dark, and silence speaks volumes, I think, at this hour. I just keep thinking about the picture that they have been painting of Donald Trump in the last days and weeks, this really dire picture, calling him unfit, saying that he simply doesn't represent and stand for the ideals of this country. Kamala Harris called Donald Trump a fascist, and she continued to argue over and over again that she could bring the country forward, that she could turn the page. And it turns out that the country did want to turn the page. They just wanted to turn the page on Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's administration. Remarkable.
I'm about to start watching ABC.
From this election. Elections tell you a lot about what the country stands for and what the country
on the left,
wants.
the blondie.
And
I'm about to start watching
ABC
because these dudes are
and some surprising. We are very much looking at Donald Trump set to be the president-elect. We have not projected as a network officially. Obviously, the math is very much in his favor. And we can project that Donald Trump has won the state of Wisconsin, the key battleground state of Wisconsin. It's 10 electoral votes. I believe that then makes Donald Trump now, ABC News can project that the former president, Donald Trump, 47th president of the United States. That takes him to 276 electoral votes. There are still states on the map to be counted. Not since Grover earlier in the night. It's now become a reality. Again, the breaking news at 5:31 here in the East. Former President Donald Trump, ABC News now projecting, will be the next president of the United States.
This is just an unbelievable comeback, the greatest political comeback in the history of the
Why they love Trump so much? Dick suckers, bro. Are these Republicans?
He comes back to the White House, rising like a phoenix from the ashes.
Bow out after that horrible debate performance in June was a decision that should have been made earlier. That would have perhaps given the Democratic Party more time to do some sort of primary, or would have given Kamala Harris more time. However it turned out, or whoever the Democratic Party chose or people voted for, perhaps that would have given them more than 107 days, which is all she had to introduce herself as a candidate at the top of the ticket.
There's certainly going to be a lot of discussions and deep soul searching, I think, within the Democratic Party about how this all unfolded, and a lot of deep questions for the president about the way he went out of this race, the timing of this. Could the outcome have been different if Democrats had had time for a primary, for instance? But Kamala Harris, in those 107 days, really cast herself as the change candidate. That is hard to do when you are the sitting vice president. And when you look back at how things could have been different, I think we've been discussing that all night long in the wee hours here. The fact that she wasn't able to really differentiate herself enough from the president to say to Americans who are suffering economically that what she would do differently, and to really put a fine point on that, I think is going to go down as one of the biggest errors in this campaign.
And fuck that shit. These niggas is Trump fans. I ain't gonna close. These niggas is Trump fans. Are you kidding me? What the fuck? These are Trump supporters, and I'm disappointed. You guys are pushing positive Trump propaganda, and that is not how the mainstream media should work. You guys are punished for the Democratic Party, and I hope you receive lashings for trying to humanize Donald Trump. This is disgusting. Disgusting. You're supposed to be biased. I'm supposed to be pissed. I'm supposed to be triggered. But all jokes aside, these guys are so stoic. Way more stoic than MSNBC. I mean, I see why those guys are tanking. MSNBC is just so disgusting that people are just like, all right, fuck you guys. Y'all are just telling us blatant fucking lies at this point. That was very surprising. Actually, I didn't mind watching that. It was kind of like a chill vibe. Let me know which network you want me to react to next. You still got CNN and NBC and all these other networks. I can go ahead and react to those if you want. Or if you want me to talk about any other topic, just put it down in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. Have a good night. See you.
I get around. What you mean you don't know? Check it go. I get around.